listeners. Welcome to the All About Animals show. My name is Nikita Dhawan, and today I'm so honored and excited to be talking to Panchali Panapitiya. She is a co-founder and director of RARE, the Rally for Animal Rights and the Environment, which is an organization that fights for animal welfare and empowerment and is based in Sri Lanka. They have educational, social, and legislative initiatives, especially on captive and abused elephants. Thank you so much for joining today, Panchali. How are you?
Thank you very much for having me here, Nikita. I'm doing great. I'm happy to be here.
Great. Yeah, no, thank you for agreeing to the interview. I'm really looking forward to it. And can you just briefly start by telling us how you personally became involved in animal welfare?
Well, my history in advocacy is pretty short, actually. Um, I was um, I was a banker. That was my career, and till 2014, I was very much doing only banking, and I was focused on my career. Then in 2014, I moved back to Sri Lanka. I was in Dubai before that, and then since childhood, of course, my family were animal lovers. We always had pets, and we were against captivity, and we were always for freedom for animals. Um, and then I always believed in equality and justice for everyone, not just animals, but humans and animals both. But I had not considered joining advocacy for animals. While I was working, of course, I was following campaigns on social media with the emergence of social media after 2008. But then, since I was more focused on the career, I didn't see the importance of me being actively involved in advocacy. But then in 2015, since I returned back to Sri Lanka, I volunteered for every little thing, like even for street dog welfare. I went for protests, I went for lectures, and then with that exposure and making a network and networking with advocates and environmentalists in Sri Lanka, I understood that animals needed my voice more than building a corporate career. So little by little, I started my concentration on this field. So basically, my active advocacy started since 2015.
Speaking of, organizations, can you tell us about the one you co-founded, the Rally for Animal Rights and the Environment? What is its vision and what kind of campaigns do you run?
We started RARE in 2019, accidentally, actually. I had not planned on starting an organization, but I was together with prominent environmentalists and activists in Sri Lanka. We wanted to have a rally for all animals, not just wild or captive, but domesticated animals, farm animals, for all the animals, because we don't have an updated set of animal welfare laws in Sri Lanka. And so, with that in mind, we wanted to do a rally in 2019. But unfortunately, because of the terrorist attack in April 2019, we had to cancel it. So I was admin of the Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram pages. Of course, there was no following in those pages because we had not basically launched them. But we had prepared graphics, and the setup was there. And then I asked everybody, all my senior activists, whether whether I could use them as a platform for animal rights in Sri Lanka, because till 2019, most of the organizations in Sri Lanka were for conservation of wild animals and welfare of domesticated animals like dogs and cats. There was no, there were no I mean, there were small groups, but there was no established social media platform or movement for animal rights. So, seeing that void, everybody agreed that I should do these pages. So then, little by little, we built the Facebook page and then the Instagram and Twitter. And then we did a lot of campaigns. And then with these campaigns coming into prominence, we had a lot of responsibilities thrust on us, actually, right? And we got invited from by the government to take part in discussions and negotiations and all that. And then the need to register happened. So finally, we registered it as an association. So and we wanted an action group that would be there when something bad happens to an animal, and to do it with strength, and to get all of Sri Lanka and the international community together to speak for these animals, and especially the captive elephants. So that is how RARE started. And we focus on animal rights, we focus on autonomy for animals, and we have that's our vision, and we have three objectives. That's ending the captive elephant industry in Sri Lanka, right? Because we don't have a very the numbers in Sri Lanka are not as large as, say, in India or Thailand. We have only about 100 working elephants and another 100 in the zoo system, right? So I think ending the industry is not a difficult thing as long as we do it focused. So one of our objectives is to end the captive elephant industry in Sri Lanka, and then definitely conservation of our wild elephant population, because we have one of the worst human elephant conflicts in the world. And as I said, there are no laws. I mean, we have the laws that we have on animal welfare is from 1901.
Sorry, you cut off there. Can you repeat yourself?
Yeah. So the third objective of RARE is for the Constitution of Sri Lanka to recognize the sentientness and rights of animals.
Yeah, I think I remember reading about how the human elephant conflict in Sri Lanka, because it has a very high density of elephants, and I like that. I like the use of the word autonomy. I think that's very empowering. So that's pretty interesting about your vision. And you mentioned that your team comprises of like environmental activists or just specialists. Can you elaborate more on how your team is structured and what's the composition of it?
Yeah. We are registered as an association, like a non-profit association in Sri Lanka, and we are two directors. That's myself and Maheshina Naikara. She is also a very veteran animal welfareist, and we have senior animal rights activists and welfareists advising us. We have Manoja Virakodi, who is also a coordinator, and we have a network of volunteers, Sri Lankan and non-Sri Lankan both. Some of them work online with us, and some of them work on the ground. And we have our volunteer network is divided into different groups. Like we have a content creation group, we have groups for different projects. We have a group for graphics, and then we have, like, for each project we have a group of volunteers that support us. And about our work, there are three action. There's an action plan of, we call them the 3 E's of RARE advocacy, right? So we go on expose, educate, and evolve. That is, we expose the reality to the people, and through exposing that, we show the reality, because we don't want to sugarcoat it, or we don't want to save anybody, or we don't want to hide it from the people. We show them the truth, and then through that we try to educate people. We try to educate on what is right, what is wrong, and how it can be done right? And then through this, we try to change the attitudes of the people, that that animals are not objects, and this is the situation of our elephant population, this is the situation of our dog, or this is the situation of our captive elephant. And through that, we feel that if we tell the people the truth on a scientific manner as well as an emotional manner, uh, then that way we can change the attitudes of the people. And then when the attitudes change, evolve, we would find the population evolved, and that would get us results. The change would happen automatically if the attitudes of the people change. So those are like our action plans, our action points rather.
Yeah, I think a lot of the campaigns you do reflect that very well. You have a lot of social and educational campaigns, but there's also like so much action and tangible work that you do. For example, you lobby against governments and call for new laws. And you said, there is a focus on elephants in your work. So one of them was abused elephants. So, can you just tell us about one of the cases, Wishwa, who was
Yeah.
in 2020 the most abused elephant in Sri Lanka? How you fought for him?
Yes, Vishwa's case is very sad because till say even till 2019, there was even a belief among conservationists in Sri Lanka that um, taking elephants from Pinnawala or captive breeding and keeping them in captivity is okay, and they thought that that was less cruel. But Vishwa was an elephant that was born in Pinnawala. His mother is still there in Pinnawala, and he was gifted to a temple, to a Buddhist clan called the Ramana Nikaya. And although he was gifted to the temple, the Pinnawala authorities, when they were delivering, the temple had asked them to deliver him directly to a park where they offered him, where they offered elephant rides on him, right? So this was a very good, like a very clear example of corruption and misuse and cruelty altogether, right? So, because normally in Sri Lanka, elephants are gifted, they say that elephants are gifted only for cultural purposes, which is also wrong. But then this elephant was directly delivered to a park that gives elephant rides. So, so there itself you have corruption, right? And
Yeah.
then probably there would have been, bribes or other things involved, but we don't know we don't have any evidence to prove all that. So the elephant was delivered there, and he had one of the worst mahouts possible. He
Mhm.
was under so much abuse, and he was giving continuous rides there. And even the captive elephant industry understood this. There are certain pro captive elephant social media groups and action groups, but even they felt that this was wrong because the elephant never went to the temple even.
Yeah.
So there were a lot of complaints about Vishwa, and the government didn't take any proper strict action. They were only warning the temple. Then at some point, the temple took him back to the temple, but the abuse never stopped, right? And then in 2020 February, we received an anonymous video of Vishwa being beaten so badly. It's not that he wasn't even uh, aggressive, or I mean of course there is no reason to beat an elephant, but then the I don't know whether you saw it, Nikita. It was just terrible. The mahouts were just acting
Mm.
very sadistically, like there was one mahout on his head just beating his head, and Vishwa was shouting. And then when we posted this on our Facebook, it was caught even by the international media and international activists, and it
Yeah.
it went viral. But even then, that was not enough for the Sri Lankan authorities to take Vishwa back. But then we created a campaign. We were continuously campaigning for his rescue, because in Sri Lanka, it's not very easy to go and take an elephant from a temple,
Yeah.
right? But this elephant was actually given by Pinnavala orphanage authorities. So Pinnavala Elephant Orphanage still had a say about this animal. So, so then few months later, in when the Candy Asala Perahara, the annual Candy Asala Perahara for 2020 was happening, Vishwa showed a lot of stress. He was showing stereotyping, and it was very obvious that he was under a lot of abuse. And on the last day, the Mahout lost control of Vishwa, and he had taken Vishwa out of the Perahara. And while they were just waiting away from the Perahara, he was caught bullhooking Vishwa's face continuously.
Oh.
And we received that video also. I mean, it's really awesome that both these videos were sent to us anonymously,
Mm.
and we still don't know who took them. And then so we used them. Then a lot of international activists joined us in this campaign, especially Anika Slim from Free the Wild also helped
Right.
us. We did a very strong, we did a lot of action campaigns where we commented, we wrote letters, we gave calls. And at the time, thankfully, there was a very strong director general of the zoo department. I don't think we would have found success if she wasn't there. So she took immediate action, and she confiscated Vishwa back. And now Vishwa is there at Ridyagam Safari Park. It's not the best of conditions for an elephant, but it's the better conditions in Sri Lanka. It's also a zoo, it's a safari park, but it's a open zoo. It's not like a caged zoo.
Okay. Yeah.
So, so at least he's not being abused continuously, and he's not being worked there. So he's just retired there now.
Yeah, I think that firstly his case sounds, I mean, just you describing how he was being beaten, that's very heartbreaking. I think that like again, no matter where he went, whether it was the temple or the park, there's still, abuse under any of those embellishments of, culture
Yeah.
or education or just any label you put on it. So, and I think that it's definitely a better, at least he's living, a better life right now. So I think that was um, your organization and the support really made a big difference. Another case that I found interesting was the lawsuit against the injured captive elephant Cullinan. Can you just explain how that unfolded? I think it was in 2019 to 20.
Yes, actually, I think as far as I know, in the history of Sri Lanka, only these two elephants were confiscated from the government, by the government from the temples, because
Mm.
previously the elephants were never confiscated and they died, right? So in 2018, Kalana was in must, and his chains had not been changed, and the chains had uh, cut through the skin, and I think there was even a bit of growth over the chains, right? And and it was septic. It was a terrible wound on the ankle, and for an elephant, an injured ankle could be fatal. And many people, the temple was a Vishnu temple called the Dondra Sri Vishnu Devalaya. It's like a Buddhist plus Vishnu temple.
Mm.
So they had two elephants. One was Lasada, the female, and Kalana was the male. So it was a very bad case of negligence. And at the time, there was a very strong deputy minister in the wildlife ministry. And when this went on national TV, his abuse went on national TV. The minister went himself, and he was very strong. He didn't entertain any interference by culture or powerful people. He went and he brought the elephant. He confiscated the elephant, and there was a court case going. But later on, Sri Lanka has so much of instability in politics that the the minister's portfolio changed, and in end of 2019, we understood that the court case was not going well, because when the temple requested for the elephant back, and the Department of Zoos agreed to give the elephant, subject to the temple paying them the cost of treatment. So it was like on the last day of the case. So it was terrible. And then the court was like, okay, so the decision was that if the temple pays, Kalana would be released back to the abuser. So we had to make a very fast and quick intervention there. I remember we didn't even have a month, or we had a few days only. So we had to draft a petition, we had to find the petitioners, and we hurried up and we filed a fundamental rights case in the Court of Appeals, because it was a writ. Because, you know, because elephants are considered public property in Sri Lanka, and this elephant was a elephant given from Pinnawala. Only thing is, animals should not be considered as properties at all. But then this was even a violation of that, abuse of public property. So we filed a writ in the appeals court. Then I remember this was on a Tuesday. Then the appeal court gave a stay order where asking for not releasing the elephant till our court case is settled. We had to take that to a court on Wednesday morning in a different province. So we had to run and we had to intervene in a case where our lawyers from Colombo went there, because the lawyers in that province did not even want to get us a copy of the file due to the strength of the temple. Or maybe they were scared that, people think that if they go against temple, gods will be angry with them or whatever. So that was the case. So somehow we stopped that. And finally, after months of hearing the case, the zoo department requested for a settlement with us. And they reversed them giving the option of returning him. And they promised that they will keep Kalana in a retired state in Ridhegama Safari Park. And so that's it. I mean, we were able to stop that. So both Vishwa and Kalana are now at Ridhegama Safari Park. I mean, it's not like the case of Kavan or, other elephants that have received sanctuary in good places around the world. But this is the best conditions we can offer to an elephant in Sri Lanka.
Right. And I mean, I'm not aware, are there any other sanctuaries in Sri Lanka, or is this safari park the main?
That's the sad part. We don't have sanctuaries in Sri Lanka. I think till these incidents happened, no one considered that elephants could be retired. So we have elephants in 4 establishments under the government. That is the Dehiwala Zoo. We have the Pinnawala Elephant Orphanage that houses the largest herd of captive elephants in the world, in the Asian elephants in the world. And then, because they have about close to about 90 elephants, no, now it's 76 elephants there. And then you have Ridhegama Safari Park, which is also under the zoo department. So other than that, all the other elephants are under temples and private owners. And they are all being worked in peraharas and other illegal activities. Only cultural activities are legal in Sri Lanka. So any commercial activities taken from any elephants being worked in any commercial activities is illegal, but somehow they managed to do it.
Mm.
So that's the condition. So this requirement of having a retirement sanctuary had probably not crossed the minds of Sri Lankans before, but now that need is there. So let's see what the future holds.
Right. And you mentioned that there was like this example you given also for Wishwa, and there's examples of corruption and inconsistency and following the law, even if it's not for using elephants culturally. So that kind of brings me to my next point about smuggling of elephants. So I was wondering, what are some of the loopholes in Sri Lanka's or the government's regulations regarding elephant smuggling? For example, wire calves, taken from the wild when it's illegal to capture elephants.
Hmm. Yes, now the worst cases of elephant smuggling happened from 2009 to 2014. About the research says that about 80 elephants were captured, baby elephants, and only 42 of them have survived. So all the others have died in the process, is what the research says. So more than actually loopholes in laws, Sri Lankan conservation laws are not so bad,
Okay.
right? uh, I mean, we feel that it's not enough, but then if you compare with other countries, our conservation laws, our wildlife laws are not bad. But the problem is that there is, again, a lot of corruption, a lot of bribery, and there is inefficiencies, and that care towards animals on an emotional level is lacking. So that is how these these smugglings happen. And definitely the number one problem is political interference
Okay.
and coercion from the top on the public, on the Department of Wildlife Conservation, and certain employees of Wildlife Conservation Department were also accused of aiding elephant smuggling. But even the most, even the presidents and prime ministers of the country uh, are keeping very good associations with these smugglers. So, and then it's obvious that um, so which is why the industry, the smuggling industry was thriving. Then in 2015, due to political change, these about 39 baby elephants were confiscated. One of them died in the custody of wildlife department. So there were 38 elephant calves in the custody of the government. But then, but then even since 2019, there was a strong effort by the government to pardon the smugglers and return these baby elephants back to them, because the owners, because the people that have bought these elephants were Buddhist monks, like famous, powerful Buddhist monks, famous, powerful politicians, and powerful businessmen, very rich people. They have paid in millions, right? One elephant, the cheapest elephant baby was about 20 million rupees. This was like a half-billion rupee transaction, like a deal, and baby elephants were given as bribes. Even there was even a judge, a magistrate accused of elephant smuggling, like keeping an illegal elephant in his possession. He was, of course, acquitted, right? So,
Yeah.
but then this was the case. So, so the investigations later on, because of this political influence, slowed down, and there were other political decisions taken to give these elephants back. So, do you want me to tell you about the court case also now?
Yeah, sure, that would be great.
So, what happened was in 2021, um, August, the government, no, in 2021 March, the government published a cabinet paper um, asking the courts to hurry up these cases and kind of like withdraw the cases. So this was even a violation of our constitution and our fundamental rights because Sri Lankan, like the Sri Lanka is governed by an executive president. You have the legislature and the judiciary. So
Right.
here, the executive and the legislature was coercing, pressurizing the judiciary or influencing the judiciary on their actions. So in March, we went to courts against this cabinet paper. But although our case was in Supreme Court, the government went ahead illegally because I mean that's what we feel that it is illegal. It's a violation of our fundamental rights. They went on acting on this cabinet paper and they gazetted a set of regulations. These three regulations consisted of elephant registration, some welfare regulations for captive elephants, and on how to gift elephants. So
Mm.
all these were made not for the benefit of elephants, but for exploiting elephants more. And even although riding and logging were illegal in Sri Lanka till to 2021, this document was legalizing riding and commercial use of elephants. So we went to courts on that as well, but then it there was not enough time for us to take action on it. So because it was COVID and the courts were closing down, so they started releasing these baby elephants illegally, acting on that regulation. So we are now in the process. We have two court cases going on in the Supreme Court and in the Appeals Court. This case is not fought alone by RARE. We are supported by Center for Environment Justice and and a group of conservation, the conservation community and animal rights advocacy, animal welfare as a whole community. We are fighting against this in courts right now. This is about 38 elephants' future, but most of them are with are back with the illegal owners and smugglers. But the court has not allowed registration of these elephants. So we will know very soon on what's going to happen, whether the court will stop their registration and take the elephants back, or whether the court will give them back.
I think it's new. I didn't realize there was this degree of political interference or influence on animal protection. I've definitely seen some level of interference in India. But I feel like the examples you've given, they're very intertwined, especially with the bribery and corruption you mentioned, which makes fighting for it more challenging. And I'm also guessing there's just not enough implementation and tracking of it currently, which is
Yes.
an issue with wildlife trade in general as well. And it just lends to elephants becoming a token or a prop for politics, for bribes and gifts. And specifically for gifts, I wanted to ask, Are elephants commonly used as gifts in Sri Lanka? And I think Rare had a social media campaign against the elephant in the Sri Lankan army as a mascot. Like how did that go?
Yes, I think since winning independence, uh, Sri Lanka had been having something called the Independence Parade. There are two elephants are being used. One is an elephant from the police, and one is an elephant from the army. The army has a regiment called the Gajaba Regiment or the Elephant Regiment because during ancient times, Sri Lankan kings fought on elephants. So this regiment was named probably it's like a descendant of that, and it was called the Elephant Regiment. So so they were using a live elephant as a mascot. And the cruelest thing is that they would only take baby elephants and they would return this elephant back when it's not a baby anymore. When they're about 10 years, they give the elephant back and they take another new elephant. And people were so blind that not these elephants were not always elephants taken from captivity. We have Elephant Transit Home, which is a rehabilitation center for wild elephant babies, where wild elephant babies are taken in, kept in a very wild, non very with less human interference, rehabilitated till they're about 5 years, and released back to the wild in herds. So the army had been taking elephants from there, and no one thought that this was wrong, or no one noticed it because it was done so hush hush. So this time, their their last elephant killed the mahout, who was a army soldier, and we got to know about it through a whistleblower. And then when we inquired the wildlife department, they confirmed that the army had requested for a new baby elephant, and the chosen baby elephant was a wild baby elephant from Elephant Transit Home in Udawala. So there was not enough time for legal action. Of course, we spoke to our lawyers, and legal proceedings were happening, but we understood that there was not enough time, and we needed some immediate action. And so we did some strong campaigning on social media, and we also did a lot of calling. Like we would ask people that knows the army general or personally or non-personally, whatever, and we got people to call them. And we got even international activists to comment on the army general's Facebook page. A lot of people helped us, and especially we have to mention conservationists Brukshan Jayawardena and Otara Gunawardena, animal rights activist, who is also like a mentor to me. And so they also got involved, and we all campaigned very hardly just for about a week, right? And somehow we were able to melt the army general's heart, and he understood that elephants should be in the wild. And finally, he said that till he is in the army will not be taking an elephant. So this happened in 2021, and the happiest moment was not just that. In 2022, for the Independence Parade, after 74 years, Sri Lanka stopped taking elephants, which was like a great victory. And I hope this continues because Sri Lanka is very famous for reversing good decisions. But so far, it has been like a big victory for animal rights advocacy, or the biggest victory so far, I think, because we were able to stop a part of a tradition of 74 years. So, and the most the emotional thing is, although so many hundreds of people fought for this baby elephant, no one had even seen the face of the baby elephant because Elephant Transit Home does not name baby elephants. They only like give them certain numbers, and they don't really they never released a picture of this elephant. And we all fought for, for a wild elephant baby that no one had even seen. So it was an amazing camp.
Wow, I really love that. I mean, just not even the fact that people are so, passionate about fighting for this elephant who they cannot see is just amazing. And I really like the way that your
Yeah.
organization like emotionally and actively involve the community. I think the calling is a very, creative idea. Especially when there was, a lack of time for legal action, and it is a great victory for the um elephants are not parading anymore.
Exactly.
So yeah, I think that's great progress. And so those are some of the, and speaking of just, social campaigns that you did, another one that's very, prominent in in Rare's work is the Kandi Isala Barhera Festival. And so elephants, there's been a history of elephants being abused there. Can you just tell us a bit about the festival and how it utilizes elephants, how Rare got involved?
Yeah. Perahera is means procession. So Kandiasala Perahera is the biggest and the longest and the grandest Perahera that happens annually. But but smaller Peraharas happen throughout the year in Sri Lanka. So this is the number one demand for elephants in Sri Lanka. This is the only reason why the government has allowed keeping elephants. The cultural activities means it's basically Peraharas, right? So
Hmm.
Candy has now Lord Buddha's tooth relics is believed to be held in the Kandy Temple of the Tooth, and this Perahera or this procession is done in honor of Lord Buddha, and it has a lot of cultural activities. The usage of so many elephants in the Perahera is not that old, though. It was this usage of so many elephants was introduced about 150 years ago. Although the Perahera was is about 2000 years old, the usage of so many captive elephants is only about less than 200 years old. And from what we understand, this is a custom that had been adopted from the Indian culture,
Hmm.
because Sri Lankan kings intermarried with Indian queens when there were not enough royal blooded queens in Sri Lanka. They normally, I think, these queens came from Hyderabad, and so through them, the Indian culture of keeping captive elephants came to Sri Lanka, and so taking elephants kind of was thought like a honor. The history of captive elephants in Sri Lanka is basically is on a more military level. Like kings used elephants as the vehicle to go on wars. So, Perahera is a Buddhist festival. So, when but of course, Buddhism is against animal cruelty. So, it's not even logical.
Hmm.
Lord Buddha's main the fundamental teaching was to have universal love or maitri, and to practice ahimsa towards all living beings, not just humans, or not just even big animals, even to the small animals. And Lord Buddha asked monks not to travel on animal rides, right, or animal vehicles. But somehow, in honor of Lord Buddha, these Peraharas are happening with elephants. And so the biggest, the challenge or the biggest attack on animal rights advocates that speak on behalf of captive elephants is that we are attacking culture. So
that's sort of a hard ground to move on. I think even in India we have a lot of festivals in Kerala where they utilize elephants, and I know that's more controversial than against zoos or just elephant rides, since it is going to the cultural religious territory. But
yes,
it is interesting how you mentioned there's the intersection of how elephants are used culturally between India and Sri Lanka. And also the, unfortunate disparity between, what the god being celebrated or whoever being celebrated, non-violence towards animals and what is actually happening. So there is a bit of irony there. And I saw also that there were Rare had some tweets against corporations like Pizza Hut and Starbucks and hotels, because they sponsor these festivals to attract tourists. And so I mean it's just sort of also a money-making scheme for corporations. So
yes. The biggest challenge in Sri Lanka is that almost all or 99% of Sri Lankans think that elephants dance in the Perahara. When I was young, I was told that, oh, that's a dancing elephant, right? Uh, but thankfully, I was brought up in a household that didn't like chaining animals or caging animals. So my parents didn't really take us to Perahara much. I remember my father wouldn't take us, so I went to see Perahara once or twice with my uncle. So, but then most of the children are brought up uh, with the teaching that elephants dance, and to top that, we have the Candy Asala Perahara is being marketed as a tourist attraction, and it has been a tourist attraction at least prior to social media era, right? But little by little, now tourists understand that chaining elephants and parading them through streets like this and captive elephant industry is cruel. So with that, the flow of tourists to Kandiasala Perahara is reducing. And of course, with COVID and all the issues in Sri Lanka, the economic crisis and all, last 3 years had seen the least numbers attending the Perahara. But the biggest challenge is because foreign tourists still support or still come and see the Perahara. So, and so which is why corporates try to market it, because they want to earn money and they want to sell seats in their establishments, because a seat would go uh, seats are very expensive depending on where they are, and some hotels I think probably thrive on these 2 weeks, and they earn their highest profits during these 2 weeks. So so these corporates also must now, we want them also to now start thinking, because even 2 years ago we didn't focus on the corporates much, but now since last year onwards we are also concentrating on educating the corporates on not supporting Perahara, because it's not that we are against Perahara. I mean, I'm a person that loves art and music, dancing, and so on. So I mean, Perahara should continue even for the next 2000 years, but without elephants. And the corporates should also understand that. And they should also start teaching their customers, asking their customers not to patronize captive elephant attractions. And, they have to be more responsible when advertising. At least, don't use elephant pictures when they're advertising the Perahara, because Perahara is not only about elephants, but people have made it about only elephants. So,
yeah.
So now I think even elephant riding was being promoted previously by hotels in Sri Lanka, but now we are seeing a decline in that. And we hope that, within a few years' time, even promoting the Perahera would reduce. And the Perahera organizers will also understand that tourists will stop coming to see the Perahera if they continue to take elephants.
Yeah, I think I mean firstly it's great that there are less tourists who are seeing the festival. I think it's important to remember that everyone growing up they have different exposure and a different exposure and different states of awareness about animal cruelty. So it's not about, blaming the tourists or saying that, what you're doing is wrong. As you said, it's about just educating them. It's the action that they take after learning that would matter. And I think including corporations in it is very important and essential as well. And just talking about education, you also have theater performances, which I thought was very unique of your organization. So you have theaters and shows to educate the public about elephants and conservation. I mean, where did this idea come from, and how many locations have you performed in so far?
Yeah. Yeah, actually, this is my favorite project because I was involved in theater when I was in school.
Yeah.
I have even taken part in competitions. I was an actor in school. So I love theater. And then in 2019, we had the Vigil for Elephants. In 2020, January, we wanted to have the Vigil for Elephants, and we wanted people to understand the tragedy of elephant smuggling. So we created a drama on elephant smuggling. It was a bilingual drama. We used English and Sinhalese both, and it was created by Suranjika, a speech and drama teacher in Sri Lanka, and some actors were even animal welfareists also acted in it. So that was our first drama. It was not like a street drama, but it was like a normal stage drama. And then later on, I thought, why not take this around the country and and get the support of the people uh, towards elephant conservation. And so we have two versions of the drama. One is for the urban areas, and the other one is for the human elephant conflict stricken areas, because of course, how they relate to the issues are different. And here we have a whole scene where the elephant is talking, and the drama starts with a scene where a girl doesn't from the future, where a grandfather has drawn a picture of the elephant, and the girl has never seen an elephant. She doesn't know who that is. So the grandfather explains what an elephant is, and then he tells a story of what happened to elephants. So the drama touches on human elephant conflict, on deforestation, all the issues that the wild elephants face, plus our Perahera issue, our captive elephant issues, elephant smuggling, and and we show that the biggest problem for the elephants is also corruption, just like for humans. It's an interesting project. I think this is even the whole world, no one has used drama as a tool.
Yeah.
In the 1990s, street drama was popular in Sri Lanka when I was schooling, and so I remembered these things happening. But later on, it died off, and I think even this project is reviving that street drama culture as well. So it's good for the art and great for the elephants.
Yeah, I mean, it's my first time hearing about it. It sounds really engaging. I wish they had it in India, because I would certainly like to see one. And just to check, how many locations have you performed in? Has it just or like any specific
Yes.
region?
We have done in 26 locations now.
Wow, okay. Yeah, that's really nice. And
And
it's better to
yeah,
like
we are. yeah, we haven't gone to the human elephant conflict stricken areas yet, because we our biggest challenge was the economic situation of the country, and we had fuel issues. So yes, still, and even the transportation is very expensive in Sri Lanka now. So we are going on a like a it's we are going on a budget, and so far we have done in cities only because transportation is easy to these areas. But now this month onwards, we have started going outstation out of Colombo, and we hope that villages. But we have done some shows for farmers that bring vegetables to the cities, so they have seen it. Uh, so it's very interesting to see how the farmers and how the villagers that actually face issues from elephants will take the drama. So fingers crossed for that.
Oh yeah, that's cool that you show it to farmers. I think yeah, I think that's very interesting. I was also about to say that it's a good way to attract the younger generation as well. So that's really nice. And another one of your programs that I thought was pretty unique was the Mahout program, where you recognize exemplary caretakers and just award them. What is often the relationship you observe between elephants and their caretakers? And more importantly, how can we improve that for the elephants' welfare? Welfare, welfare, yeah.
Previously, the gap between rare and the mahouts were very, very wide because I mean, we would be exposing things, and the mahouts were, of course, very offended about it. And you remember even recently, I was attacked by a mahout, right? So,
Yeah.
but anyway, later on, we realized that if we don't keep, if the mahout is not happy, he would definitely not be able to keep the elephant, be kind to the elephant, because what we realized was that the elephant owners treat the mahouts very badly. Once once we met a mahout, and I asked him to order whatever food he wanted, but he felt that he should not be ordering the food because he felt less than us. He thought it was not a nice thing. It was like a disrespect if he ordered whatever food he wanted, and he wanted all of us to order the food for him. So it was shocking for me, like, because in with elephant owners, they treat them in a very less than human way. I think they treat them like probably there is caste system involved, or it's very sad. So the mahouts are also facing a lot of cruelty from the owners. They beat them. I've heard of stories where the owners even beat the mahouts. So with that type of life, you can't expect the mahouts to be kinder to the elephants, because obviously when you're under so much of stress and anger, and you automatically will put it out on the elephant, right? So then, what we thought was, if we recognize the kind of mahouts, right? In Sri Lanka, there is nothing called positive reinforcement uh, for handling elephants. It's only negative reinforcement. And what they call traditional elephant care in Sri Lanka, I don't think they're even practicing the real traditional ones, or if what they practice now are the real traditional elephant care techniques, they're really bad. They're like the worst possible techniques of taking care of elephants. So we chose a few mahouts that are interested in learning. The key, the key, the indicator for choosing the mahouts was their interest in learning, not even whether they are very good at taking care of the elephants, but if they showed interest in learning something, that was like given, we gave the highest points to that. And we found some mahouts that were actually kinder, and they understood what freedom meant. They understood that freedom was necessary for the elephants. So we chose five mahouts. This program is still, we just started it this month. So it's something interesting. We hope to expand it to other phases also. So let's see how it goes.
Yeah, and I think this also connects to, social justice, and as you mentioned, it's not only equality for animals, but also for everyone. And I like how your organization connects with people sort of on the other side, the people who are perceived more negatively by animal activists in the community, like the
Yes.
roots.
What we realized is we can't take care of the elephants uh, unless we take care of who takes care of the elephants. And there is no empowerment. They don't have any power themselves also, although you see the mahout abusing the elephant and beating the elephant. Some mahouts actually complain to us that their owners are not sending food for the elephant. And when they say that, they can't, just recently one of the mahouts said that he was sure that the elephant should not have been taken to a certain perahara, because there were female elephants coming, and he was expecting the elephant to come into mass. And if the elephant was taken in perahara, he was sure that the elephant will uh, break into mass during the perahara, like during those days. So
Hmm.
although that was what he didn't want to take the elephant, the owners have pressurized him to take the elephant. Here, so there is no empowerment of mahouts also. Mahouts can't take their own decisions in taking care of the elephant. So those issues are there as well. So we have to, and then in mahouts there is a big fear that if if the captive elephant industry in Sri Lanka was to end, they will not have jobs, which is also like, it's just I mean, just it's just an assumption from them. So
Yeah, similar to what you were saying about the Mahout empowerment, I'm guessing it's, similar for the farmers, since for human animal conflict, I know elephant crop raiding is pretty common around the world. So people often blame the farmers, but we also have to keep in mind that the farmers also have to protect their livelihood. So there are other social pressures that they're facing as well. So it's great that through education, I think you said you were doing theater performances for the farmers and really empowering the mahouts. You can bring more light to both of those perspectives and see how we can create balance between both human and animal needs. And yeah, so I think that's really important about what your organization is doing. And just transitioning into the ending remarks, I wanted to ask, this has been a very insightful and fruitful discussion. I love the work that you guys are doing, and I'm sure the listeners, they want to help. So how can our listeners help Rare's cause? Any, current campaigns, petitions they can support?
yes, you can follow us on as Rare Sri Lanka on Facebook, and Rare_Sri Lanka on Instagram and Twitter. And we have action calls where you can participate, you can sign petitions, and you can share our posts. And you could also volunteer with us online. You can do graphics for us, you can design campaigns with us, and so, whatever way that you can help online as well. And we definitely need donations. There is a GoFundMe link on our social media that you can use to donate from foreign countries also. So because these donations mean a lot to us, since our organization is not hands-on with animals, sometimes um, the work that we do uh, is not very expressively. We can't show them in photographs, right? But then we have our costs like transportation and going to see elephants and all that. So these are very important. You can donate to our projects as well. So we would really appreciate any donations and volunteer work that we can get. But the most important is that you follow us on our social media and take our message across to your friends and family, and advocate for the elephants.
Yeah, great. And we'll have all the links for the social media handles and your website linked in the description. And yeah, thank you so much for coming in. I really appreciate your time. This has been a great discussion.
Thank you very much for having me, Nikita. It is a lovely discussion.
Great. Thank you so much. Have a nice day.
Bye.
Bye.